How do you see this principle starting to develop? Will it begin with some international agreement or with the creation of certain funds or associations?
I think
Private.
it will mostly start with communities that teach people to think constructively while evaluating what's happening in terms of the potential benefits we can gain from it. First, so it's not an illusion, but a clear understanding of potential. And second, constructive thinking. Because only when we shift the world into constructive thinking can we talk about harmonious and effective taxation.
What should be the first steps or what first principles should emerge in these communities? Maybe we could rely on numbers. For instance, if at least 1,000 people are involved in a community, then a new principle could be applied. Or maybe you see some postulates that are already clear, without which this new community with constructive taxation principles wouldn't grow or manifest.
It depends on how much the community focuses on working through childhood traumas and how much new unlocking technologies are used for people who are directly influenced by their childhood, where they received certain trigger points that either block or enhance various qualities. To what extent a community will create conditions where, figuratively speaking, psychological help removes emotional blocks from childhood, allowing a person to realize their potential, and in that potential, through communication with others, balance them. This, in turn, changes society and creates new conditions where new laws and principles emerge, which will also shape financial relations.
What percentage of people today do you think manage to work through their childhood traumas, to overcome them somehow? Because I know people who have been working on it for years, and by the time they reach retirement, they're still broken. I've seen examples where decades of psychotherapy didn't help, yet there are some who did manage. Yet, as you say, at each new turn of personal evolution, at every new stage, the same reflexes resurface that we dealt with before. For instance, you learn to some degree not to judge, were calm, doing well with it, but as soon as a new twist of events occurs, it all starts over again. Or for me, it's the same, but related to self-belief. Everything seems fine, yet when something new has to be done, you wonder, will it work or not?
Every next level, if you navigate it correctly, is an internal state, meaning more emotions, and you step into the next level. These lessons exist, you go through them, but in smaller volume, yet with greater potential. So, to answer your question, how many people today overcome this threshold of internal transformation relative to all humanity? I believe very few, around 1%, and it doesn't depend on people themselves. Surprisingly, unfortunately, we practically have no real psychologists. We have traumatizing psychologists who, for instance, bring people to some kind of stability and then trap them there. And since the psychologist often has their own problematic states, otherwise they wouldn't have gone into psychology, the most they can do is help a person work through what they themselves have already worked through. But since they start out with psychological traumas, that's the issue. It's necessary for a loving person, not a traumatized one, to work with people. If someone works from love, not from analysis or system, their effectiveness will be higher. Therefore, first and foremost, we need more psychologists who heal with love, not just talk.
Is this 1% enough at the moment for such communities with constructive taxation to start manifesting?
Unfortunately, no. For now, it will just be like playing in a sandbox.
And how many percent would be needed?
At least 3.
I agree.
Once it reaches 3%, it will spread like a wave and this chain reaction will begin. And achieving 3% is very doable. That's if we simply start noticing the good, thinking constructively, removing haste, being honest, at least with ourselves, and more often when tension arises, using humor.
You've been voicing these principles for a long time and consistently, but is there something else that should help humanity? Because under current conditions, everything seems to be going the other way.
In fact, everything is going in the right direction. The other issue is that most people resist. It's like leading a child to school, and the child tries with all their might to stay in their sandbox, yet the sandbox won't give them development, while the school will. And the reason is very simple. We don't hear the voice that speaks in a language we're not used to, because God can only offer through events. And if we refuse, he will still act as it's for the best. But then the principles we wanted to live by stop working, meaning we remain bound to old laws. And that's when problems start, because he will close old systems and open new ones. And the issue becomes ours. We cannot step into them and be self-sufficient because we're still trying to cobble things together.
This question I think you've touched on before. Is it possible to create a single tax residency for planet Earth?
I think it's naturally possible, but it will mostly depend on the individual, their potential, and what they can contribute to society. As a result, they might not pay any taxes at all, because their tax will be emotional and energetic. Or conversely, someone with certain financial vibrations might have to give up to 90% of their income. And they'll enjoy it because they will have the ability to influence the entire financial system.
So this unified system isn't based on everyone being equal, but on being unified, with an individual approach for each person?
Yes, exactly. And the main thing is that everyone within this taxation system, regardless of numbers or structure, will feel it fits like their own shoes, perfectly comfortable.
The next question from a subscriber. How can I personally change the tax system in my country if currently the government takes more than half of my income? And I'm not okay with that.
Mentally envision how they want it, maximize enjoyment of life where possible, based on deriving pleasure from sports, family, children, creativity, theater, films, games, and nature. They build a foundation of positivity. From this position, they imagine what taxation in their country should look like. Even if it's imperfect, it will still improve conditions for every citizen of that country. And next, if they pay taxes, even while they're still this high, they must pay them with pleasure. It's very important to mentally wish love to everyone involved in creating or maintaining the tax system as it exists. This will create favorable conditions through current changes, so these people either change or step aside, unable to influence the system.
Doesn't this create some kind of illusion that will make it even harder for the person later?
It does if the person focuses on the result. Because it's like saying, I want it to be summer all the time, daytime all the time, and the birds to sing only the songs I want at the times I want. Sounds tempting, but it's utopian. Therefore, one must accept reality, accept what is, and recall the principles. It's like going to the gym and aiming to reach Schwarzenegger's level. We clearly can't achieve that on the first workout.
So we pay taxes, even if it's more than half of our income, with pleasure. And we imagine that every penny or cent goes to transform the person who's in charge of distributing these taxes.
I would put it a little differently.
And also the area he works in.
Mentally, we imagine that the money goes for the benefit of the state, the people, and planet Earth. And in any case, the money that this person paid will be used to replace that streetlight, pave a road where there isn't one, plant flowers here, or build a school or kindergarten there.
According to your principle, can I express the intention that I'd like to feel like an investor and that I'd like the money to go to this specific place? Or will it still be distributed according to the person's energy level, relative to their laws and principles?
Remember, we talked about how even one person can change the whole world. But for that, they don't even need faith. They just need to love this world. And the less grievances they have, which is the flip side of love, the more everything will unfold in the most harmonious way for this world. And there's this game I sometimes recommend to certain clients for whom it works perfectly. For me, it helped a lot. When you walk down the street, imagine that in this city, everything has already changed exactly as you wanted. Taxation, for example, 10%. Everyone is happy and healthy. You are wealthy and successful, with excellent relationships with your loved one. You play life instead of just trying to survive, and you observe how you feel, how you relate to it, and how others feel. They don't yet know it's already this way, but you know, feel, and observe this world as if it has already become your personal reality. That is probably the most powerful influence on the changes you can create in that city, country, or planet you live on. If you do it playfully, without focusing on the result, but fully enjoying many things in your everyday life.
Does a person even need to be interested in how the tax system works? Will it be useful to them? Or do they already have enough to worry about? Kids, work, or whatever suits them.
In my opinion, nowadays it's necessary to be interested in everything.
A little bit at a time.
Because, unfortunately, often when we lack love, we try to compensate for it with knowledge.
So we need to be interested to compensate with knowledge.
Yes, but you still need to do it, not when you already don't want to and feel sick of it, yet continue anyway. That won't help. But at least in some of the simplest things, you should understand and figure them out. For example, when I arrived in Kyiv, I immediately asked my friends who lived there. Tell me, where is the best place to live in Kyiv? Which district is the best? They said, Pechersk. And I made it a point to rent an apartment there.
But you had a connection to it, and an ordinary taxpayer doesn't feel that they have any involvement in how taxes are distributed.
He has a very strong influence on what taxes will be. He just doesn't know that when he, with faith, tells this mountain to rise and into the sea, it will happen. When he has inner calm, when a man feels like a man or a woman feels like a woman, when they have a clear understanding that they live to be happy and enjoy life, and for planet Earth, from that position, the intention they express will inevitably create conditions to change tax policy and improve taxation for citizens, because the priority is the citizens, not the state.
Let's try to think constructively in this direction and at least be curious about the existing order of things. But I'm just afraid that it will make people even more judgmental. You know, when we lack love, as you say, we compensate with knowledge. But when we pursue knowledge without love, our most constructive qualities don't really emerge.
That's why I say
they surface.
We always need to validate any knowledge with pleasure from something. Some people with biking, some with horses, some with their dog at home, some with a cat they interact with, some with attending concerts, some with theater, some with sports, some with cool cars that they try to modify. So there must always be something in life, ideally 10 to 15 different areas. Love for restaurants, love for the sauna, love for horses, love for travel, love for gardening, love for playing with kids, love for movies, theater, books. So when you have several areas, you have the opportunity to grow and expand. Because if a person only collects stamps or digs in their garden or only works with horses or only paints while everything else is secondary, unfortunately, they can't influence the world as much as someone with many hobbies who also tries to impact the world.
The next question comes from a community where, as I understand it, there will be a new tax system, and accordingly there will be a new political system. Am I right?
Yes.
The question is, will there be a political system where people or companies who pay the most taxes influence political decisions?
No, that's the worst thing possible.
Exactly.
Because you could very quickly stage a coup in any country and make it totalitarian. Figuratively speaking, you could buy power by paying taxes and then exploit it. Politicians will be chosen based on how much love they have, and they'll be nurtured from childhood to become, let's say, like spiritual leaders. In our case, the idea of a spiritual leader is viewed a bit differently. The term has already discredited itself in the sense that this person should genuinely create the best conditions for the well-being of the surrounding world from a place of love. In my view, the time will come when only women who have given birth to at least one child will be involved in politics.
Then there will definitely be peace on earth.
Because in that case, she will care for the state and its people like a mother cares for her children.
I completely agree with that position.
And as for educators and teachers in schools and universities, there should be more men, because this is creative, fatherly, strong energy. If this strong energy flows with kindness, they will be very good people.
You've already said that this will be the coolest profession, educator or teacher. It has to be a man who implements and inspires, right?
Of course, there are areas of teaching or education where it's preferable to have women, but in my view,
in terms of ratio,
in the society with the new tax policy and new communication among people, the most prestigious of the prestigious professions will be maternity ward staff, kindergarten teachers, school teachers, university professors, new level doctors, not the ones we have now, and politicians. essentially these are the people with the greatest amount of love, and their pay levels will be the highest.